Hello and welcome to the Marley Bird YouTube channel, brought to you by Red Heart Yarns. In this video, you will learn how to make the tag-along baby blanket, which is a free pattern over on redheart.com. This video is part of the My First with Marley Bird series, which means you're going to learn how to make this blanket from start to finish with my help. We'll begin with the chain stitches, how to work the stitch multiple over those stitches, how to change colors, how to weave in ends, and finally, how to put a border around your blanket. Go ahead, grab your pattern and your materials, and let's jump in. I worked up a little swatch to show you what the stitch pattern looks like for this baby blanket. Right here, you can see that the stitch pattern is just made up of double crochets and then some single crochets with chains that then the next row, the double crochets, are worked around. So it's a really easy stitch pattern to memorize, and it just kind of really goes really quickly off of your hook. You will change colors for the blanket as indicated in the pattern. On the swatch here, I've started off with the first full repeat of colors. So you can see I started off with 2 rows of color A, I switched to 6 rows of color B, back to color A, and then 6 rows here where they're separated by color C, D, and then C, and then back to A. You can see that the blocks of color here, these chunks of these 6 rows, are separated by the 2 rows of color A. And that's the way it's worked up throughout the blanket. So you can get in a rhythm of changing colors and kind of get in a rhythm of knowing exactly what color needs to be worked when. So let's jump in and learn this stitch pattern. As I was working up the swatch, I figured out the stitch multiple to be a multiple of 5 plus 13. If I do a 5 and then do 13 stitches after that, I come up with the right amount of stitches to create my full stitch pattern. Now the pattern itself says that you will chain 138 stitches to create the full size blanket. For this little swatch, I'm going to do a multiple of 5 plus 13. I will start off with a slip knot directly onto my hook. And I'm going to go ahead and just start counting out. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now let's do 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Now I'll do a double crochet in my 4th chain from hook. Remember, you never count the loop that's on your hook. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, and I will put a double crochet at that point. So I will yarn over my hook, go into that 4th chain, and work a double crochet. Now I'll double crochet in the next 3 chains. So I yarn over my hook, going into the next chain over, I will do a double, going into the next chain over, work a double, and the next chain over, work a double. Chain 1. Now I'm going to skip a chain and go into the next chain, and I'm going to do a double there and in the following 3 chains. You'll see that this is one of the toughest parts of the entire piece of crocheting, working into the actual chains. So don't let it frustrate you. It's okay, take your time. Just remember that you need to skip that chain and then do a double crochet in the next 4 after you do that chain 1. So I'll chain 1 again, skip a chain right there. I'm going to go into the next chain and do a double in the next 3 chains after that. Chain 1, skip a chain, do a double into the next chain, and in the next 3 chains. You'll notice here at the end of your row, you will do a double crochet into the very last chain. So you'll have 1 extra double crochet on this last set here, and that mimics this skipped chain 3 we did over here, which counts as a double crochet. So even though yours is longer because you have 138 stitches, it should look something really similar to this, where you have segments of 4 double crochets all the way along the row. On the last stitch of this row, we need to change to our next color. So we're going to go ahead and change to color B. So I'm going to show you how to do that. On this last stitch here, I'm going to undo the double crochet, okay? So I'm going to start all the way over so you can see from the very start how this works. We are still going to place a double crochet in this last chain here, okay? But on our very last yarn over to complete our double crochet, we're going to yarn over with our new color. So see how I have 2 loops on my hook? I'm going to grab my color B, hold it right up next to my color A, yarn over my hook, and pull through with my color B. That's going to allow me to change colors. Now I'll chain 1, turn my work, and I'm going to do a single crochet right there, single crochet. Now I chain 4. I will skip all of these double crochets coming all the way over here to this big chain space, and I will place a single crochet right there. Chain 4. Skip all of this, come all the way over here to that space and do a single crochet. Chain 4. Skip all of that, come to the chain space, do a single, 2, 3, 4 chains, and skip all of these 4 double crochets, and I'm going to work into the 3rd chain of my turning chain right there, okay? So I'm going to do a single crochet right there. Once I've done that, I can move on to row 3, which is chain 2. This chain 2 counts as a double crochet because the designer, Selena Baca, wants this to count as your double crochet, so make note of that. You will now turn your work, and knowing that this chain 2 counts as my first double crochet, I'm not going to work any stitch into that space right there. I will go ahead and move on over here, and working around these chain 4s, I'm going to do 4 double crochets. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. See that? And I've worked all of those around those 4 chains, okay? So I did 1, 2, 3, 4 double crochets working around those 4 chains. I chain 1, work 4 double crochets around the next 4 chains. Chain 1, and I carry on. I carry on repeating this, doing my 4 double crochets around my chain 4s to the very end, where I will finish with a double crochet into the last stitch of my row, which is a single crochet from the previous row, correct? So I will hit that mark or hit that point in this little swatch here in just a second. So there's my 4 doubles, and in my last single crochet, I will put a double crochet. Now, if it was time to change colors, remember, I would change colors when I have 2 loops on my hook. From that last double crochet, I would change colors. But for this example, I need to go ahead and still use my color B. At this point, your work should look a little something like this. As we look down here, you can see my beginning row of chains and my very first row of double crochets and my chain 1s. My second row consists of a single crochet, chain 4, single crochet, chain 4, single crochet, so on and so forth. Then on the row coming back, I have my original chain 2 right here, and then my 4 doubles, chain 1, 4 doubles, chain 1, 4 doubles, chain 1. You just carry on with that. You see how that works up? The great thing about this pattern is it's just a repeat of those 2 rows for the entire blanket. So as long as you can do a single crochet, a chain, and double crochet, you can make this blanket. Super easy. So here's the trick. All you need to do now is repeat rows 2 and 3 for the designated number of rows indicated in the pattern, making sure you also follow the color sequence. So for example, in the pattern right now, it says we're going to continue with color B for another 4 rows. What that will do is it will allow your actual piece to come up with a total of 6 rows of color B. This is where we are in our little swatch, and this is where we are in the swatch I did earlier. Then you will switch back to color A and do 2 rows of color A. Switch to color C, do 2 rows of color C. Switch to color D, do 2 rows of color D. Switch to color C, do 2 rows of color C, so on and so forth. Just remember, when you change colors, you're going to do it on the very last double crochet of the row you're working on. That will put the new color on your hook ready to work the next row in the new color. Let me show you how to do that one more time. I'm going to move this swatch out of the way, and I want to remind you that in your real blanket, you will not be changing colors at this point in your swatch, but I'm going to show you how to change colors one more time, just so that you know. Here I am. I'm to the second half of my double crochet where I have 2 loops on my hook. I would grab my next color, whatever color that would be, put it on my hook, and yarn over with my new color. Just like that. That's all you need to do. Now my new color is ready to work, and I would do my chain 1 and turn and begin my row 2 once again, which is a single crochet, chain 4. Okay? So can you see how that works up? It's really simple. Now I didn't cut my yarn as I was going along just on this little swatch, but you will want to do that. So you will want to grab your scissors and make sure you snip your yarn as you're going along, which means you're going to have a lot of ends to tuck in, but that's no big deal. You can take the time and weave in your ends because that's just going to make your blanket look that much better. Let me show you how I weave in the ends. Let's pretend this is my finished swatch, and I can decide at this point in time which side I want to be my right side. And I really like the look of the side where the double crochets are being worked, so I'm going to make that my right side. Meaning I want to tuck all of my ends in on this side. Now you'll notice that I did not crochet over top of my ends because I feel like that does not tuck in your ends sufficiently enough, especially for a baby blanket that's going to get manhandled quite a bit by the baby and then washed quite a bit as it's being used. So what I would like to do is I take a tapestry needle and I thread my tail, and you'll notice I left a nice long tail. I always leave at least 4 to 6 inches to give myself some room to work in my ends. And then I will start working my ends through the color that the end is. So as in this case, this is the papaya color. So I'm putting my end through all of those stitches and pulling it through. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is as I come back, I'm actually going to split the yarn and work my end back the opposite direction, splitting my yarn along the way and tucking in my end. Now I've went down and back, and I'm going to go one more time. I'm going to make sure each time I just grab a little bit and I'm weaving my end back once again all the way through. That's where it's really handy to have that nice long tail. Now see, as I move this, my end isn't moving. It's going to stay put. So I can feel confident enough to snip that nice and tight, and it's going to be secure. I can do the same thing with the next color. So let's say we have this lovely little jadeite color. Thread it onto my needle, and I am going to come up through here just to grab the yarn, and you'll notice I'm actually splitting the yarn, and when I come back down, I will start working the tail back this direction. Now this time I'm going to actually work down the post of the stitch. Can you see that? I'm working down the post of the stitch and I'm splitting the yarn, but I'm making it so that the actual tail is worked into the post of the double crochet, and it's all getting tucked in on the wrong side of the work. I have my finger over here on this right side of the work, making sure that the needle doesn't pop through so that my yarn, as it's getting tucked in, does not show through to the right side. And I'm just going to finish it off. I went down and up and back down. I feel like that's nice and secure. I can snip my tail, and voila, I have a nice end tucked in. It's very important you take the time to weave in your tails. This is something that I am very, very adamant about. I don't think it is sufficient enough to just crochet over the ends of your work as you're working along. It's really important to weave in your tails, especially if you're doing something as a gift, because there's nothing more unsightly than after somebody washes their gift for the first time, like a baby blanket, and when they pull it out of the washer or pull it out of the dryer, the ends are all poking out all over the place. So take the time to weave in your ends. Once all your ends are woven in, that's when you're going to want to do the border. So let me show you how to do that next. When you add a border to a baby blanket, it's just that little bit of a finishing touch that makes the blanket just look a little bit extra special. A border doesn't have to be super complicated. It can be as simple as single crochets, half double crochets, or double crochets. Let me show you what I mean. Taking a look at this swatch that I did prior to doing the video, you can see I've already begun to do my single crochet edging, which is the first round of my border. I've started down here in the corner with the right side of my blanket looking at me, and I've joined with a single crochet, and I've placed single crochets evenly up along the side. Now the pattern states precisely how many single crochets the designer wants you to put at the end of each row. I'm going to tell you, you can have a little flexibility with this. If you find that maybe doing 4 single crochets at the end of the row makes it perfectly balanced for your particular blanket, great, do 4 single crochets. If you need to do maybe 2 and then 3 and then 2 and then 3, do that. The best thing to do is do the number of single crochets along the edge that makes your blanket at least lie flat and it doesn't look like it's bunched up and ripply. You can see here that I was consistent with about 3 single crochets in each section of 2-row repeats. So that worked out really well for me. When I got up here to the corner, I did 3 single crochets right here at the corner, so that way it turns and rotates around evenly. Then I put a single crochet in the top of each double crochet, a single crochet in the chain 1 space, all the way to the end, and here's where I am in our pattern. So I am ready to do my 3 single crochets in this corner, so that way I get a nice curve. So I will go ahead and do my 3 single crochets all in this one space. And once again, what this is going to do, it's going to make it so that the border has a nice curve around the corner. And now I'm ready to work along this edge. Now, I just told you that down along this edge, I worked 3 single crochets in each 2-row repeat. So I'm going to try and stay consistent with that. And I can decide here if I want to work into the actual stitch, like so, or if I want to work around the post of the stitch. Whatever you decide to do, as long as you're consistent with it, that's the important factor. So here I am, I just did 3 singles, and now I'm going to go to my gray color, which is a 2-row repeat. I'm going to put 3 singles. Now I'm to my blue color, which is a 3-row repeat, and I'm going to put 3 singles. See how that's working up for me. You can see here that as I'm working along, I'll stop and kind of look, okay, it's not bunching up. It doesn't look like it's too spaced out. It looks really good. And I know that because this particular border is just a multiple of half double crochets, there's no specific stitch multiple I have to worry about. I could actually have a different number of stitches on this side than the side I already did. So I don't have to be conscientious of having the same number of stitches. As long as my stitches are even and it allows my blanket to lay flat, that's what's the most important here. So as I'm going along, I just want to make sure I'm doing 3 single crochets in each 2-row repeat because that worked well for mine. And I think that that's roughly what the designer asked to do in the pattern also, because it makes it lay nice and flat. And as I'm going along here, when I get down here to this bottom corner, it's going to be my foundation chain row. So I wanted to show you how to do this on camera so you can see how this works. So I'm down here at my corner. Let's go ahead and do my 3 single crochet in my corner. Because remember, I want that to nice turn. And so here I am, I'm looking at the bottom side of my chains that I worked into at the very beginning. So what I need to do is I need to work into this spare loop right there that's hanging out underneath all of these double crochets I did at the very beginning. So doing that, all I need to do is just work into each spare loop and I will do single crochets. Now remember, we did skip 1 chain because we worked into 4 chains with our double, and then we have a skip chain here. And I have a decision to make. I could actually work into the actual chain like so, which leaves that nice kind of loop, open loop right there. I call it the butt of the stitch. Or I can go ahead and just work into the full space, very similar to what I did when I did my single crochets, and let that be nice and tidy. Now I prefer that. So when I get to my skip chains, I'm just going to work into the full space. So there is a total of 4 single crochets, and I'm back to my chain space. So I'm going to work into the whole space. And I will do this all the way to the corner until I have to do another 3 single crochets at the corner, and I will fasten off this particular color and move on to the next color. I'm at my corner, so I will do 3 single crochets right here in my corner. and I will join with the slip stitch to the first single crochet I completed, finish off my work, and voila, I have my first round of my border complete. Now the pattern states it wants me to place a marker in the middle single crochet of each corner of my 3 single crochet corners. What this is going to do is it's going to make it very clear that in that marked stitch, we will be doing 3 stitches again, so that way we can go around the corner. So let's go ahead and place our markers. Now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to find my single crochet. So there's my 3 single crochets, and this is my middle one, so I've marked it. Let's come over here. Let's see, there's 1, 2, 3 single crochets, so I've marked it. Let's look at this down here. There's my 3 single crochets, there's my corner. And then over here, 3 single crochets, there's my corner. Now that all my corners are marked, I know that in these spots, I will do a multiple of 3 stitches. That way my corner is nice and curved. The pattern now tells us to add our new color with a slip stitch to any single crochet in our border, except one that's marked. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to join right here where I joined before. So I will just put my hook directly into one of my single crochets, yarn over, pull up a loop, and I'm joining with a slip stitch, and now I'll chain 2. And the pattern states that this chain 2 is going to be our first half double crochet, meaning I am not going to put a stitch into that same stitch that I joined with. I'm going to work now into each stitch all the way to my marked stitch with half double crochets, and in that marked stitch I will do 3 half double crochets. A half double crochet is a yarn over your hook, go into the stitch, yarn over your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through all 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, go into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through all 3. You'll do this for each single crochet all the way to the marked stitch, and at the marked stitch you will do 3 half double crochets all into that one stitch. Again, all that's going to do is make it so that your corner is nice and curved and lays flat. I've reached my first marked stitch, so what I'm going to do is pull out my marker and then place my 3 half double crochets into that stitch. There's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. Now I'll take my marker and place it in the second one I just completed, so that way on my next round I'll know I have to put 3 into that stitch also. I carry on working my half double crochets all the way to my next marker, and I repeat. When you've completed this round, you'll change colors again and you'll repeat round 2 with the new color, and then your border is complete. The last thing to do is to weave in the ends of the border and you are done. Now you know how to make the tag-along baby blanket. This is a really fast and fun blanket, easy to memorize, and it's a great use of colors. Don't be limited by the 4 colors that the designer used in her blanket. You can use any colors you choose to use. Maybe you want a different color every 2 rows. You can absolutely do that. You don't have to follow the color sequence precisely. You can make this blanket your very own. I hope you enjoyed this My First with Marley Bird video, and you will hit subscribe so you're up to date whenever there's a new video released. And don't forget to share with us your finished projects. We love to see all the items that you guys make from watching these videos. Share with us over on the Facebook page, which is just facebook.com/Marley Bird. And as always, make sure you smash that like button. I'm Marley Bird, proud spokesperson for Red Heart Yarns. Thanks.